All right, so this is what we are expected to cover, all right, in the JavaScript. So we'll be looking at it right from the very basics. We're looking at it right from the very basics. So we'll be looking at it in a few modules. The very first of them is the basics, all right. So we're gonna have the introduction to JavaScript. We'll look at the overview of JavaScript, and then we would also look at the basic syntax of JavaScript. We'll move on real straight. We'll look at variables and variable declaration, and then we'll move on to look at operators. Then in module two, we'll be looking at control flow and functions, and then under that, we'll be looking at conditional statements. That is if, else, and then else if, you know. Then we'll move on to look to do loops. All right. So we have a while loop, we have a do while loop, we have a for loop, we have the in loop, for in loop. Now we'll be looking at all of them. Then we'll move on to look at functions and scopes. Then we'll look at parameters and return statements. Then in module three, we'll look at strings, arrays, and objects. So we'll look at strings and string methods, arrays and array methods, object and object methods. And then we'll move on to look at a new feature of JavaScript, which came with the EXS Plus, and that is the structuring and spread operators. And then from there, we'll move on to DOM manipulation. DOM basically stands for document object model, and basically defines the structure of like your web page structure and how to change the web page with JavaScript, right? So there we're going to look at the document object model, and then selecting and manipulating DOM elements. Then we'll move on to look at a few more things, a few more advanced things in JavaScript. So we're going to look at how to handle forms, all right? You know, in HTML, we did forms. With CSS, we styled forms. Now we have to validate our form. So we'll be looking at it over here. Then we'll move on to look at local storage and session storage. We'll move on to look at arrow functions. And then we'll be looking at anonymous functions as well, just a brush on it. Then we'll look at just something quick, which is about template literals. It's not a main thing, but we'll look at it. We'll definitely have it going, so you know what it is and how to use it in making your work a little, let's say, a little easier. Then we'll look at Ajax and the Fetch API in JavaScript, and how to use it to get data from external sources. And if you have been in the web, if you have any idea, Ajax is simply just technology that helps to make websites work a little faster. You know, we'll talk more. Just a brief introduction. Then we'll move on to the sixth module, and then we'll be uh, doing projects. By the way, as we are going through all of these modules, we'll be doing projects along the way. All right. So then we'll also look at how to integrate JavaScript with HTML and CSS. You know how to go about those stuffs, and then we'll have a final project. All right, a final project on JavaScript, and then some of the projects which we will be building include a rock paper scissors game. I think I did one. Let me go back here, and this is a rock paper scissors game. All right, and this is just with JavaScript and then the HTML and CSS for what you are seeing, and then JavaScript for the brain behind it. So I could pick scissors, and it says my move scissors, computer move rock, result you lose. Means the computer has one win. You can see it happening right here, right? Then I can now choose rock. Then computer chose paper. I chose rock. I lost. Let me choose rock again. I lost again. Then I lost. Come on. How am I just losing? Okay, I've won once. So my wins, it's counting here for me. And then I can refresh the page, all right, and my scores are still there. You can reset it, and then the scores are gone. Basically, that's it about that. Then we'll be doing a to-do list app. I have a to-do list app open. I think I have one somewhere. Do I have a to-do list app? Right, so yeah, I've done some to-do list projects over here. And so we have this to-do list app over here, so we can say we have a to-do list, learn HTML. Then we add it, and it's showing over here, right? Then we go to learn CSS, and it's now showing over here. Then we say learn JavaScript, all right, and then we add it over here. Then you can delete an item, all right. Then now we've learned HTML, so we can now cancel it. We've learned JavaScript as well, all right. Now, sorry, we've learned HTML and CSS, so we can cancel them out. Then now we are moving ahead to learn JavaScript. So that is what it says. So we're going to be building the same to-do list app, right? And let me close that. Uh, Back to my. Then we'll also be building a quiz app, right? So there's a sample of a quiz app over here. So it has a lot of questions, all right? So you can just have your quiz app, and then you just choose your answers, and when there is something wrong, it's gonna alert you, right? Then you can also shuffle everything. You can shuffle the questions, you can reset it, and the questions come dynamically. So when you open, it's a different set of questions that is gonna come. When you refresh again, a question is going to come on another subject, all right? And so we're going to be building this app as well. We'll see how it's going to be working for us. And then we'll move on to build a weather app. I don't have a weather app open yet, but an app that tells us about the weather, maybe a weather forecast, all right? So we'll be using that, and we'll also do that using Ajax or the Fetch. We'll be using the Fetch API, and it's quite an advanced thing, which uh, guarantees you to be able to take big projects, when you're able to understand most of those concepts. And so we'll do that. And then we'll build a password generator as well. I think I have a password generator, which I did some time back. Let me see if it's here. All right, so this is the password generator. And we're gonna build a password generator like this, all right, where you can just click on it for it to generate a password for you, and then it also keeps a history of passwords that you have generated. So I could just press C to copy this password, and when I go there, I realize that this is a new password, and then it gives me my timestamp. So we're going to be building something like this as well in the JavaScript during this JavaScript class. Then we'll also build a head tail game. All right, do I have a head tail game open? Head tail game. I haven't opened it yet, but it's just about a game when you choose head and the computer chooses head, and Then also we'll build a calculator. All right, we'll be building a calculator up. I built a similar project, but it wasn't just a calculator. It was quite an advanced project, like a Windows 11 interface that I was trying to replicate with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I don't have it on my PC. I pushed it to GitHub, and I haven't put it onto this local machine yet. But then we'll also be building an e-commerce app or an e-commerce website with JavaScript, and this is just an example of it. All right. So let me go to here. Then we have the items. All right. Now I can click here, and we have items in the cart. I can click to remove an item from the cart, and I can just close my cart, and I can now come back and add this item and open my cart, and it's there. And I can close my cart and go to a different page, contact page, open my cart, and it is there. And all of this is being done with just JavaScript. All right, there is no backend language, there's no database connected. It's just JavaScript for you to see how most of these things do work. And so basically, that's it about it. We'll be building all those projects during this JavaScript class. All right. So without wasting much time, let's jump right into our very first lesson, and that is the overview of JavaScript. All right. So what is JavaScript? Let me just quickly get something on MDN. It's a trusted source for lessons, or maybe for concepts, to understand concepts. If you are a developer, all right. So let me just look at the quick overview, and then we'll jump on to looking at some things real quick. And on the MDN, it says, so JavaScript is a lightweight interpreted or just-in-time compiled programming language with first-class functions. While it is most well known as a scripting language for web pages, many non-browser environments also use it, such as Node.js, Apache CouchDB, and Adobe Acrobat. JavaScript is prototype based, multi-paradigm, single-threaded, dynamic language supporting object-oriented, imperative, and declarative functional programming styles. And JavaScript dynamic capabilities include runtime object construction, variable parameter lists, function variables, dynamic script, a whole lot of things. And I can't explain what everything means, but it talks about just in time or just in time compiled. Are you getting it? And the meaning of that is when you write JavaScript, you don't have to compile your code before it runs. Are you getting it? When you write JavaScript, just like HTML and CSS, you open your browser and it's rendered for you right away, not like other languages where you have to pre-compile it, like Java, where you have to pre-compile your code and then run it. Are you getting it? It runs as it is. And then also, it says that while it is most well known as a scripting language for web pages, right? Many non-browser environments also use it, such as Node.js. And so we know that most of the time, JavaScript is referred to as a front-end language, right? Because when it comes to web development or when it comes to software development, we have two categories. Like we could group them into front end and a back end. All right. The front end is what the users see, what the users are seeing, like the color is blue, the color is black, it does this and does that, all right? Then back end, most people think back end is the code you are writing. No, that is a source code. But back end is like the brain behind whatever is happening. Are you getting it? So you don't see it. The front end, when you code front end, you see the buttons, you see the headers, you see the colors and the images that you put on a web page or an app. But the back end is like the brain that says that when the user clicks this, then take them to this page. And if the user is logged in, then direct them to this page. If they are not logged in, then put them to this page and a whole lot of things. So those like the brain, are you getting it? And that is what we call the back end. And what this statement is saying is that JavaScript is mostly for browser, for web pages. Web pages are rendered in the browser. But then there are non-browser environments that use it, such as Node.js. Node is a JavaScript framework which is used for writing which is used for backend programming. All right, and we'll look at backend programming when we move to PHP. And back when it's backend, it means it's going to run on a server. Are you getting it? So whatever when you write Node, or let's say Node.js, whatever is happening, it's not happening in the browser. It happens on the server and then rendered in the browser. So it means this is a non-browser environment for Node, the same as Apache, DB Couch, all right, and also Adobe Acrobat. And if you've been with computers for a while, you probably may know of Adobe Acrobat, which is a PDF viewer, all right, and it goes beyond just PDF viewing. It does a whole lot of other functions like editing PDF, converting, and a whole lot of things, all right, and it uses JavaScript. And so back in the days, when you get onto, let's say, uh, a web page, it will tell you that you need Acrobat need JavaScript enabled. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but a while back, when browsers were not programmed to read PDF files, when you open a PDF in your browser, it tells you that you need Adobe Acrobat to be able to run those type of things and stuff. And that's basically that's the most basic thing we could say we would need to understand the theoretical aspect. We would need to understand about JavaScript. All right. So let's move on real quick, and let's see how well we can get going with JavaScript. All right. So I have my modules here, and I have my HTML here. All right. So I have just a container. Let me take off the container, and then I just have a basic HTML boilerplate, and then I have a script source. All right. So let me explain what this does. Just like you link when you have HTML and CSS, you link to your CSS file when writing JavaScript, you can link to your JavaScript files. Are you getting it? Now you can write JavaScript within your web page, and what you do is you come back here, and then you have what the script element. All right, just like we have other elements in our file, and so we can now say var name equals Eric, right? And we've written our JavaScript element. Somebody has a hand up. I've lost the connection. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
But I doubt
Yeah,
you can't see my screen anymore.
Yes, sir. We can no longer see your screen.
Okay, sorry, I had a problem with my connection. All right, so I believe you guys all got what was here, right? Did I leave you guys behind, or is there anything which is confusion at the moment?
Yes, sir. I my data also um got messy, so I had to reload and come back again.
Okay,
So
so
I
I
didn't
was
get.
just saying that we have a basic HTML boilerplate over here, all right? Then we have our title, and with JavaScript, just like you can write CSS, all right, you can write CSS styles like this in our HTML page, which goes inside the head. What you can do is you can write JavaScript, all right, and then you can mostly it's advised to bring it to the bottom of your page, so we can write JavaScript over here like that. Are you getting it? Then I can just do something and say console.log name, all right. So now my JavaScript has. Let me just run this. Okay, I'm running in the HTML, so it's not going to work for me. Let me just open my browser. So let me just open this and my live server because we'll be using the live server as well. And let me wait for the web page to. It's open for me. All right, so when I let me go to inspect elements, and then let me choose console, and then you realize that whatever I said now is now being rendered in my console. So what will I do? Let me come back here. Then another thing you can do is you can have your JavaScript in another file, like we usually have our external CSS file. All right. So I'm now creating a file and I'm calling it main.js. So when you're writing JavaScript, you make sure that your file extension ends with what .js. All right. Then inside my HTML, I want to link to that particular file. So I'll just say script. Are you getting it? And then here I'll say source, and then I'm going to link that. All right, so I have made.js. Are you getting it? Then I can come back here and I say console.log. I am learning JavaScript, right? Then we realize that now that has been shown over here for us. Now whatever we wanted to log in a console has been shown over here for it. So let me just give you guys a quick overview of something over here. Right now, when you open your you come to your developer tools or you go to inspect element, we have different tabs. All right, we have the network tab, which shows you files that are being fetched to display your web page. Are you getting it? Then we have the element tabs, which shows the HTML code. Then we have the console, which shows the browser's console. Then we have the sources, which shows all the files that have been linked to that are running here, right? And over here, I'm seeing some files which we haven't included in our project, but it's because I've installed some Chrome extensions, and so those are also adding some things to my web page over here. And a whole lot of things, application will be coming to applications in a moment. Not today, but during our JavaScript lesson. And I basically that's what we'll be looking at. Back to my console. Let me drag this here, and then in here, we are saying that we are looking at the overview of JavaScript, which we have just done. All right. Now let's move to the basic syntax of JavaScript. Are you getting it? And so in JavaScript, when you are writing JavaScript, just like we have HTML in which we have what opening and closing tags like this, we don't write JavaScript like that. All right. So JavaScript, everything is just simple. When we let's say we want to have uh, let when you want to declare a variable, all right, we'll get to understand some of these things. I just don't know where to really start from, so I have to pick it from the middle somewhere and then go back, and everything will be very clear. So we can just say let name equals James, all right. Then basically what we are saying is when you want to declare a variable, you declare a variable using what the let keyword. Are you getting it? um, Another way to declare a variable is to use the var keyword. Are you getting it? And then there is the other one, which is const. But const is not a variable, it's a constant, and they all work almost the same. We'll get to that in a moment. Are you getting it? But the basic syntax is when you want to declare a variable, you use the var or the let or the const keyword. And when you want the name of the variable, shouldn't have anything. You just type it directly. If you get to PHP, we'll see a little bit difference with that, all right? And then also it says that strings or words should be put in quotes. I get it. And then also at the end of every line of your JavaScript, there should be a semicolon. Not every line should be a semicolon. Sometimes there are when you're writing functions, there are some lines that don't get to have those columns, but this is how it is. All right. So that is the basic syntax for JavaScript. All right. Let me delete everything, and then we'll move on to look at the very next thing. All right. And then that is the first thing we'll be looking at is data types. All right. So in JavaScript, we have different data types. Are you getting it? So we have the very first one, which I'll call it. Let me do this. We have what? Undefined. Are you getting it? And undefined is basically something, all right? Something that has not been defined. Are you getting it? Let's say it could be a variable that hasn't been assigned a value or doesn't exist. Are you getting it? So for example, I could say, let me use the type of keyword, all right? Type of keyword, then I could say name, all right? Then you realize that this is being cancelled, all right? And when I override, okay, so let me just change that variable and say age because that name is doing something else in JavaScript age. Then let me now let me now log this to the console, all right? So I could say console.log type of age, and the type of age, basically what it does is it tells us the type of variable this is, all right? You'll get to understand it in a moment. So when I run this, and then it says what not existed. Are you getting it? Let me close this. Let me get back into my console, and it's showing that what undefined. Are you getting it? This is what undefined. So we have the undefined data type, and it basically talks about something that doesn't exist. Are you getting it? However, I can now come and declare a variable, and I would say let it. Are you getting it? And still it's showing undefined. So I've now called this variable, or I've declared the variable, but I haven't assigned a value to it. Are you getting it? So it's now showing us what? Undefined. Are you getting it? So that's the first data type that we will be looking at. And then we also have another data type, which is null. Are you getting it? We have the null data type, which is null. Right. Let's just see it null. Right. Then let me just try and make this. Let me make it fall. What's happening? All right. We, so we have the null data type. All right, and it basically is something that a value, a null value. Are you getting it? A null value. Are you getting it? And then I could say that let age equals no. Let me not. Let me say let height. Right? Can I spell height? Equals null. Are you getting it? And it's just something that doesn't exist. So when I come back and I say console log type of height, all right, now it shows that it's an object over here. I get, and it's showing us an object, but it's actually a null value. I getting it? Something that it's really not existent. I getting it? Just like that's the idea. It's not existent. Then we have the next data type which we'll be looking at, which is a boolean, right? And boolean is basically a true or false value. Are you getting it? True true or false value. Are you getting it? And I can just come here and say that let's say let is a boy. All right, I'm just creating a variable. Are you getting it? Equal to true. Are you getting it? And now when I come back here and I say type of, let's say, console.log, type of is a boy. I go here and it tells me what it's a boolean. Are you getting it? And also then I can now say let is a girl, equal to what? False. Are you getting it? Then I could just try and say console log type of is a girl. Are you getting it? Since I'm not a girl, it's also showing as boolean. Are you getting it? Since I'm not a girl, I'm assigning that to what? To false. Are you getting it? Then uh, we can move on. Then we'll look at another data type in JavaScript, which is the string. Are you getting it? So we have the string data type, right? And just a string, and it just refers to what? Any text. Are you getting it? Refers to a basic text, just like we have text that we are writing. When we realize that this is text, but this is a keyword. Are you getting it? This is a keyword that is used to declare a variable. Now, this is a variable. I get it, which means it is assigned, there is a value assigned to it. And so, whenever you are doing anything to this variable, you are actually dealing with what? Its value. Are you getting it? That is why when I come back here, right, let me come back and say, let my name equals what? Johnson. Are you getting it? Then I can go and console.log, sorry, my name, all right? And when I go here, it is showing Johnson. Basically, what that does is that this is a normal text, so we put it in what? In quotes. Are you getting it? It can be single quotes, it can be double quotes. Are you getting it? And any of them is going to work fine. If I should change mine to single quotes right now, because I have Prettier installed, it will automatically change them to double quotes for me, but single quotes works fine. In fact, most developers prefer to go with single quotes, but I like to go with double quotes. Well, for my own reasons, you can choose to pick your own style as well. And because this is a string and it's not like a variable which has another value attached to it, I'm putting it in quotes because I want to deal with Johnson as Johnson. But this here is a variable. My name is a variable. Are you getting it? And so I could now change whatever is here. Now I can say Mike. Are you getting it? Mike. And when I come here, Mike, it's being shown. Are you getting it? So let me squeeze this. Let me close the file tree. Let me bring this here, all right, so that we can see the results as we go. I get so realize that what I am logging in the console is my name. I get it, but then it's showing Mike. So if I should change this to Dan, I'm now seeing Dan. Are you getting it? So whatever when I'm dealing with this variable is just like a container, taking whatever value it has been assigned to. And so when I do anything to this variable, and I change the value, then whatever I'm doing is now going to be what dealing with the new value. When we're doing CSS, when we have, let's say, var, and then we maybe add a color, let's say main color, and then previously we've assigned that color to green. When we go back to the assignment and we change it to red, whatever we have made, we all know that it's going to show as what? Red, right? So basically, that is what is happening over here. If I happen to be talking too fast, kindly draw my attention, okay? So we have the string data. We have the string data type. Then another data type which we have is what? The integer, right? Integer, as most programming calls it, and it's just what? A number. I get it. In JavaScript, an integer can also be called what do you call it? A number. Are you getting it? So, and when you are declaring, let's say, let um number equals what? 1. Are you getting it? Then I can now come and say type of. Did somebody raise a hand? I'm quite fast. Okay, I'll try and slow down for you guys. So I can now say console.log number, sorry, type of number, and I have this here, right? So when I save, now it's showing as number. Are you getting it? But in some programming languages, it's going to show as integer. Are you getting it? So we have the integer, or we have what? The number. Then we have another data type, which we call the array. Are you getting it? We have arrays, and basically an array in a programming is just like a collection. Are you getting it? A collection of data. Are you getting it? So a collection of data uh, accessible by index. Are you getting it? And I'm going to explain what that is. Are you getting it? And in JavaScript too, sometimes an array is also referred, or in JavaScript, array is also referred to as what? As object. But then we have an object, an object. I get an array is referred to as an object, but we have an object. And the difference between an array and an object is that an array is what one is how they are declared, and two, how their values are accessed. Are you getting it? So when you want to work with an array, you use what? The square braces. Are you getting it? Then you have your values one, and what I said it's a collection of data. Are you getting it? So we have several. And one good thing about it is that an array takes up any data type. It contains of different data, and any of those data could be any data type at all. Are you getting it? So the very first element in this array is what? It's a number or an integer. Are you getting it? Then I could have another one, then say James, which is what? A string. Are you getting it? Then we could have another one, then we say, is he a boy? True. Are you getting it? That is what? A Boolean data type. Are you getting it? Then we can also, what other data type did we get? Right. So let me say. Then also, an array can also contain another array. Are you getting it? So we can have another array, and let's say his attributes. Are you getting it? So he's intelligent. Is that how we spell intelligent? Are you getting it? So then we also have another attribute. Maybe he's handsome. Are you getting it? So let me save this, and then you know that uh, we have sorry, let my array. Are you getting it? Equals to this array. Are you getting it? And this array has one, two, three, four elements. Are you getting it? Then let me come back, and we'll be looking at array and array methods on their own. All right. So let me just stick to what we are doing here. Type of my array. Are you getting it? And it's showing us an object. Are you getting it? But when we have it in these square braces, we like to call them an array so that we differentiate them from the traditional objects. Are you getting it? We differentiate them from the traditional objects. Great. So what we have here, we could say that, and as I did mention, it contains different data types. So now this contains what? Another array inside that array. Are you getting it? And it's possible. And then when you want to access a particular element in an array, you access it by what? Its key. It's sorry, not a key, an index. Are you getting it? And in programming, index starts from zero, not one. Are you getting it? So the very first element in this array When I want to access it, I use 0. I get it. So I can now say console.log. I get it. So I can now say my array, and this is what is showing here for me. I get it. So you realize that the first item is now showing as what? As 0. I get it. Let me take this off. Let me just take it off. Then I can have this here. Then I can have my Visual Studio here as well. So I have this here and I have this here. All right. So you realize that the key for one is 0. I get it. So when I want to access the first one, I can just bring this and I have 0. I get it. And then the one that falls within that particular index, it's now going to show. I get it. So when I say 3, it's now going to show the fourth item. So item 1, which is index 0, item 2, which is index 1, item 3, which is index 2, and then item 4, which is an array, which is what? Index 3. I get it. That's the fourth item, and that is what it's showing. And the 2 here basically shows the number of elements that it contains. And so with 0, we have intelligent. That's another array, so it also has its sub children. Are you getting it? And then we have the length, which tells to that's the number of elements in that array. Are you getting it? We'll look at arrays and array methods later on into detail. Are you getting it? So the main difference between an array, let's look at objects. Then we can now talk about the main difference, right? So now we have what? Objects. And basically, we call objects what? Key value pairs, right? They are key value pairs. Are you getting it? So they just function like an array, but they you access the elements by their keys. Are you getting it? So let my object, right? And this is just any name I'm using, a name that I'm using to assign to whatever I'm going to do. Just like in mathematics, when you have to solve for a particular value, you can say, okay, let the number of children, let's say they can throw you a question, like just like us to be a little bit practical, And I'm speaking fast, sorry. In maths, maybe they could say, if two two guys cleared a field in 3 days, how many days will it take for 4 guys to clear the field? Then you'll be like, let the number of days the 4 guys take be X. Then you can now continue with your solving, all right? You can Another student could say, let it be Y, let it be M. It's just a variable which you're using. The same way when it comes to programming, you can use anything as your variable. Are you getting it? And so you just have to make reference to it later and you're still going to get your answer. Are you getting it? So let my object, and when you're coming to write an object, we use the curly braces, not the square braces. So that's one of the difference between what do you call it? An array and then the object. Are you getting it? And so when I come back here, let me go there, and then I'm going to write the key for my object. Are you getting it? And I can now say name. Are you getting it? Then I bring a colon. Now I'm going to write the value. Are you getting it? So the name is what? Uh, Mike. Are you getting it? And then when I want to write the next item, I'm going to press what? The comma. Are you getting it? Then I can also say another key and maybe age. Then I bring this, and then this is his what? He's 17 years old. Are you getting it? Then I have another um, key. Then I can say is married. Great. Let me use this. Then I'll just explain that. Then I can say false because he's not married. Then uh, another thing is an object can also contain another object and it can also contain an array. Are you getting it? So I could say his values. Are you getting it? So I can create another object. Are you getting it? And inside that object, I can say, let's say, status. Then I can say he's a celebrity. Then I can say wealth. Then I can say very, very rich. And I'm having an error over here. This shouldn't be an error. Cannot really clear. Did I use something over here?
Yeah, yeah, so the celebrity is supposed to be in quotes,
So,
or
all right, thank you very much. But there's it's still showing an error.
so then I feel like the main object with the sub object you would use single quotes instead of double quotes so that yeah.
Talk about single quotes. It's still supposed to work. No, let me take this off. All right. And something really happened over here, right? I'll bring back that object, then we see how we're gonna go about it. I get it, and I'll add that. But you realize that after I saved, I first of all had the keys in quotes, right? Then when I save the quotes, because I'm using Prettier, so we'll be looking at this into detail in when we get to object and object methods, all right? But you can have quotes around them, but which used to be compulsory, but now you don't need to have quotes except there is space between the key. I getting it. So I can say let's say child name, and this way when I save, the quotes wouldn't be taken off it. I getting it. So I could just say name, and I have the key, and then I can have the age, which is another key. The value is 17. I getting it. Then let me have this. Oh, this is fine. Okay. So the mistake I was doing is the other array, which is sorry, the other object which is supposed to come is an element inside this. So it's also supposed to have a key. I getting it. So I can have what values. Then this is how it's supposed to be. I getting it. So I have a name, and then I have age, and I have is married, which is false. Then I have values. I getting it. So now that is a key, and then inside that values, I can now have what status, or let me just say attributes, right? Attributes attr status, and he is a celebrity. Are you getting it? Then I could just say wealth. Then he is very rich. All right. So now I have saved it. Are you getting it? And I have my object. So I have the name, the key, the value, the key, the value, the key, the value, and that is it. Are you getting it? So I can now come back and say console.log, sorry, type of, then I would say my obj, right? When I save, it's showing us what an object, just like this, but this is what we traditionally call an object in JavaScript. And then for an object, when you want to access a particular value in an object, it's gonna tell you you're gonna use what the key. Are you getting it? Remember JavaScript, we use the index, and we haven't specified the index over here. We didn't say 0, 1, 1, James, 2, through. Are you getting it? Three, intelligent, handsome. But we just listed them out, and then automatically we can now use the index to be able to pick up that particular item. So when I come back here and I change to 2, sorry, oh, right, sorry, yeah, I was using the wrong character. So 2, now it changed what to true because this is the third item. Remember, indexes start from 0. Then, when I want to get a particular item in this object, I can now say console.log, and we are using. I'll explain when we get to the document object model. I'll explain why we are having this console.log over here. All right. So I can now say obj. Sorry, my obj, my object. That is the name we have assigned to our item. Are you getting it? My object, and then say I can now use the dot notation. Are you getting it? And then you see that VS Code is already suggesting some of the keys which we have stated here. So I can say this object age is what, 17. Are you getting it? And then when I want to want to know the name, then it's now what, Mike. Are you getting it? So we use the key. We call this what, the key. I hope you get it. So objects basically they are key value pairs. Are you getting the key to value? Name, Mike, age, 17. Are you getting it? Then we can now say attribute. Are you getting it? And that's going to show us another object for us because it's a nested object. Are you getting it? So basically that is how it is. And then another thing is you can also use the bracket notation, just like we have with arrays. Are you getting it? You can use the bracket notation. Uh, Attribute is not defined. Sorry, when you use the bracket notation, you have to make sure that you put it in quotes. I get it because it's going to refer to it as a string. I getting it. And then when I save, we now have everything working there for us. So I could just come back and say that I want to change this to age, and then we are gonna have the 17. I getting it. The simplest way to go about it is to use the dot notation and say age, and then you have your result showing there for you as well. All right. So we currently have um, another data type which we're going to be looking at, and which is called the float value. Are you getting it? So sorry, let me do this. Then we have the float. Are you getting it? And float basically are decimals. Are you getting it? They are decimals. So I could just come back and say let result, it's just a random variable I am creating, is equal to 1.5. Are you getting it? Then I can now say console.log type of result. Sorry. And it's also showing us a number over here, but it's actually what we call what? A float. Are you getting it? So a float as in a decimal value. Are you getting it? That's what is basically referred to in some other programming languages or in most programming languages. So floats are decimals. Standard, we have integers, which are numbers, and all other programming languages refer to it as so. Then we have the Boolean, which is a true or false value. We have the arrays. Then we have the objects. Arrays are indexed values, all right, just like we have here. Then we have objects, which are key value pairs. Then we have a string, which is a regular normal text. Then we have the null values, which is something that is not existent, or undefined, something which has not been defined, or it's been defined, not given a value. Are you getting it? So basically, these are the data types we'll be looking at for the beginning. Are you getting it? Then, I don't know if anybody has a question so far. Anybody have anything they want to know? Anything that is kind of confusing so far? Are you guys with me? All right, Enoch, you have a hand raised.
So I want to ask with the object structure, is it what we they normally use in creating database with reference to HTML and CSS?
Database, no.
Okay, like the way the structure is maybe
Well,
when
it's similar. In a database, you have we have a tables and we have a table, or in a database table we have columns, right? And then when, let's say, you fetch data from the database, it all comes with a key. Well, that's what happens when you fetch it from the database. That's how it appears. Are you getting it? So when
yes
you
sir.
want to access a particular value, you access it with the name of, let's say, the table, and then with the key, which is the column. Then the value is gonna come. Are you getting it? I
Okay
think
sir.
you have a perfect idea. Whatever you're saying, that's basically how the data comes. And when you fetch from the database, you now convert it to an object or an array or whatever it is. We'll work with those things, handling JSON and stuff. So just hang tight. We'll get there. Anybody else confused? Anybody else has anything they want to ask before we move on to the very last thing we have planned for the day? Great. So the next thing we're going to look at is initializing variables. Are you getting it? And then when we want to initialize a variable, we have already done it. Are you getting it? We initialize a variable using particular keywords. Are you getting it? The const. We use the var keyword. Are you getting it? Then we use the let keyword, and then we use the const keyword. Are you getting it? And then the const keyword, let me put asterisk by it. We usually say variable, but it's a little bit different because, as the name suggests, constant. I get constant doesn't change. So variable changes, constant doesn't change. But all of them serves as containers that hold a particular value. Are you getting it? And the difference, if you want, you'd like to know the difference between, let me say var. So I can now say var school name, right, is equal to octa skills center, right? Then I can now say console.log school name, all right? And then we have octa skills center showing over there. It works fine. Then I can now say let school location and assign it to a value called what, Accra, Ghana, all right? Then when I console.log, sorry, when I console.log, or when I log school location to the console, it's going to show us Accra, Ghana. So var works, let works. Let's see. Then let's use the next keyword, which is what, const. Then we can say school type. All right. Then assign it to a value called skill training. Are you getting it? So when I come and I say console.log school type and I save, you realize that skill training it's shown in the my console. So all of this they work for now. We are seeing them work the same, right? But what's the difference? Now with var used to be the traditional way of declaring a variable. Are you getting it? And it still works, and there's nothing wrong with it. But most of the time, we say it's outdated. All right. When you use var in your code, it's gonna work. But now you get to see people use let. So let is now the updated form of declaring a variable. Are you getting it? Now const also works. It's not outdated. Are you getting it? But it's a little bit different from let. Are you getting it? And then we are gonna see that in a bit. So now, say Octascale is now based in Accra, Ghana, and everything is working fine, right? Let's say that we have now moved to Lilongwe in Malawi, all right? So I can now come back and say that school name, remember we've already initiated the variable. Are you getting it? I can say school name is what, sorry, not the school name. Let me use the school location because we have moved. School location is now Lilongwe, Malawi. All right. Then when I come and I say console.log, sorry, school location, you realize it's now showing what, Lilongwe, Malawi. This is showing Accra, Ghana because we've already logged it. We are looking at the flow. This happened, and then this was logged, then this happened, then this happened, and this was changed, and this was logged. So this is now showing because we've already let me just take that off. So we have first of all declared this variable, assigned it to Accra, Ghana. Now we have reassigned it to Lilongwe, Malawi. So when we log our location, it's Lilongwe, Malawi that it's going to show for us. Are you getting it? Now this variable has been reassigned. Are you getting it? Say we want to change our school name to, sorry, equal to, let me just say, Accra, Ghana. Are you getting it? Now this variable has been reassigned. Are you getting it? Now this variable has been reassigned. Are you getting it? Say we want to change our school name to, sorry, equal to, uh, Octa Skill Octa Institute. Are you getting right? So that we can console.log school name. Are you getting it? Now, Octa Institute has also been changed from Octa Skills to Octa Institute. Are you getting it? Now, let me take this off. And then we're saying that. Then let's try the next one. Let's say that we are currently a skill based training institution. All right. Now, we want to change our school type and then change it from a skill based training institution to, let's say, um, a theory. I was just trying to put something there. I get it. Theoretical, so how is theoretical training, right? So now we are not getting practical again. We are going theoretical training. And immediately I save, I have an error in my console, and it says what uncaught type error, assignment to a constant variable. I get it. Now, as I did explain that the const is a little bit different from the var and let, because but as the name suggests, it's a constant. Constant means it's the same; it doesn't change. I get it. And so I could just say that when you assign a constant or when you declare a constant, the value cannot be reassigned. Are you getting it? So now you cannot change, let's say, whatever the skill training we have here, because we have used the const keyword, we cannot change it anymore. I get it. So anywhere that we are going to refer to school type, it means that school type has to be what skill train. We can't change the value. And so if we need to change the value, then we have to come back here and then change it to what theoretical training. Are you getting it? So now let me do this, and then I have to come and manually change it over here so that it now logs what theoretical training to the console. I get it. So that's the difference between the const keyword and then the let keyword. I did mention the let and var. Var is the older version, let is the updated form. I get, but they all work the same. Then their their values can be reassigned. I get it. But then the const cannot be reassigned. I get it. So where do we use let and where do we use const? I get it. Now, let is basically when you're using let, maybe you're having just a basic flow. I get it. You can use let, but when you're trying to work with maybe much more data, it doesn't have to be much more. You can just use your const. But when you want to make sure that you don't reassign a value, you don't mistakenly reassign a value, then you can use the const keyword. I get it. That way, anytime you try to reassign that value, the system is going to alert you that there is something wrong over there. I get it. So that's a perfect use case for the const keyword. I getting it. So that let's say I don't ever want to change Okta Skill Center. I don't want to change the name, right? I can now use the const keyword to declare it, so that where I have school name here, anytime that I try to change the school name, it alerts me because our school name has to be consistent in all our documents. I get me in this particular instance. And so instead of having school name changed to Okta Institute, the system alerts us that no, we are doing something wrong. And then also one thing about the browser console is when an error is logged, it shows you the file which is causing the error, it shows you the line, and it shows you the column. I getting where the error is happening. I getting it. So it shows that it is my main.js file and it is line 96. So in my main.js, and it helps in debugging or help correcting errors. Are you getting it? Now you don't have to be looking through your code to go and look for where the error is. You just have to move to line 96. Are you getting it? And then go to column 12. So each character takes a column. Are you getting it? So column 12, this is where we have done reassignment. And then you can now change it. Are you getting it? Assign it to constant variable. And then you correct your error and then you move along. Are you getting it? So now I don't have any errors showing in my console anymore. But then if you're going to work with a variable that you may need to reassign it along the way, then you go with let. Are you getting it? and we'll be building projects, and we'll get to know. Um, I will get to see some of them get used. I getting it. Anybody having any questions, anything that they want me to address, anything we could talk about? And let me just talk about this real quick. I get me. We'll be looking at operators tomorrow, and you see me use the equal to sign. Equal to is not saying this is equal to this. It's just we call it an assignment operator. I get it. So anytime you see the equal to, we are assigning the value to the variable. I get me. Um, that's it. Anybody has a question? Anybody confused? Let me get feedback from you guys, please. All right. So if you guys are okay, there's nothing to check on, then I'd like to let you know that that's all we have scheduled for today, and we'll be continuing tomorrow. Let me just quit the recording.